welcome to Indian News. Our guest today is N. Kalyan Raman. He translates modern and contemporary Tamil fiction and poetry into English. We are going to talk to him about how he got interested in translation literature and also what is the state of Tamil literature and how much interest is growing worldwide.
I grew up with a abiding interest in literature. Okay, as a schoolboy, I read a lot. I read a lot in both English and Tamil. And then I went to IIT Madras. Essentially, to become a translator, you have to be uh, engaged very deeply with literature in both the languages, language from which you translate and the language in which you translate. So I grew up reading a lot in both English and in Tamil. That was the case, and I was interested in writing as well. I wrote a few stories and I wrote a few poems and all that when I was in college, and I was also the editor of the campus magazine. So my interest in writing and reading was quite intense, I would say. And throughout professional education at the IIT Madras and IIM Calcutta, I kept up with my literary interest in literature. I was not able to, write fiction or any other literary form, because my job was very demanding and I couldn't pursue it.
So,
But
what was your job like? What we were doing after, after IT
I was
Madras?
I was I joined the Indian Space Research Organization, so
Hmm.
I was part of the Indian Space Program.
Sure. Okay.
And, I was part of the team which set up the Indian National Satellite System.
Yeah.
This was
Excellent.
back in the late 70s and the 80s. So, so I was but I sustained my interest in literature uh, by writing book reviews. Okay, because writing book reviews, you kind of you deploy whatever you know. You know, you contextualize the book that you're reviewing with reference to other books that you've read and with reference to what's happening in the world. So this in this way, uh, I was able to go deeply into what I became a, let's say, an immersive reader. Okay, I
Hmm.
learned to, normally when people read books, if they like it, they don't like it, they're interested, they're not interested. But to have a continuous engagement, you need a purpose. And for me,
Hmm.
book reviewing was that purpose.
And where we were publishing in magazines, newspapers.
Yes, yes,
Mm.
I did publish in, various Indian newspapers and
Sure.
journals.
Sure.
Yeah, and I've been doing it over the past 30 years, so
Mm.
it's available in my website.
Hmm.
Some of the essays I've written. Uh, and also another thing is that I was part of the Little Magazine movement in Tamil.
Hmm.
Okay, in not only in Tamil but in other Indian languages as well, there is what is known as the literary mag. A small circulation magazine circulated read by enthusiasts.
Mm.
Of modernist literature, because modernist literature doesn't find a place in the mass market magazines. You know, uh,
Mm.
in the Indian languages. So this little magazine movement is something that is common to, Marathi, Malayalam, Tamil, Bangla, Hindi, all these places. This is where the best modernist literature is published first. Okay, and at least it used to be. I mean, things have changed. I'll come to that. And I started writing for some of these magazines. And so I was part of it, and therefore I was familiar with what was being written at the cutting edge. This was back in the
Mhm.
70s, 80s, and so on. So I became acquainted or familiarized myself with the modernist Tamil literary tradition as it was evolving. Okay, and there are there have been many aspects to that. One of the important aspects is that when modernist literature first started, like as in other linguistic communities, the Tamil community also, it was the upper caste people, the people with privilege of, of being literate for several generations. They were the ones who jumped into the fray and started writing this stuff which is completely new. Remember that prose fiction
Mhm.
in Tamil is barely 150 years old.
Mhm.
Okay, it came as a kind of European import.
Mhm.
That is, writing about the society we live in, writing about the people we see, was not something that was part of the Tamil literary tradition. It was mostly, poems and poetry and so on. Uh, so this is something, and in prose. In fact, there was hardly a prose tradition in Tamil for a long time until the advent of
Okay,
the
now I'm
British.
going to interrupt you for 1 second here.
Okay.
So, again, those of us who are totally ignorant about Tamil literature, etc., I know that R.K. Narayan is not known as a the Tamil writer, but
Yeah.
he wrote in English, but he's a Tamilian. So, what role he played in Tamil Nadu or in inspiring other Tamil writers?
I think very little. I mean, people who read in English, they read him
Mm-hmm.
and they appreciated him as an Indian writer who was writing about. There was no particular. In fact, he lived in Mysore. R.K.
Mm-hmm.
Narayan lived in Mysore. He didn't live in what we now know as Tamil Nadu. And his sense of India and, it all came from, I mean, of course, he was connected. He spent his youth in Madras, I think. But, uh, but I think that his fictional creation of Malgudi
Right.
was,
That is the one very
yeah,
well. Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
That is something that is common to South India in itself, and there was a lot of Kannadiga element to it
Mm.
Tamil, rather
Okay.
than the Tamil element. So
So,
I would say that his roots in Tamil society were not so deep. He
mm,
was also a Brahmin, by the way,
mm.
and so he was part of the phenomenon that I was first referring to, which is that it was the upper caste people who started writing modernist prose fiction, not only in Tamil or in English, but also in Bangla and elsewhere.
So
Uh,
now let's come. I have one more question before I come to the Tamil literature. So, which year did you retire, and then when did you really started made this your full-time career translation?
okay, I think I retired from all kinds of remunerative activity by, I think, 2014. Okay.
2014. Okay.
Yeah. And, but I've been translating since the mid 90s, but because I had a job, I had to do it slowly. Okay.
Good.
I had to do it in my spare time. My first volume of translation, called The Colors of Evil, a collection of short stories by Ashokamitran, was published in 1998. And over the next, next 28 years, I published 15 volumes of Tamil fiction in translation. And I'm going to, I mean, the two books are forthcoming this year, one in July and one in November.
And which are the two? Which are these two
Uh,
books?
okay, this is the one coming out in July is called Waves of Memory. It's a memoir of a freedom fighter uh, called T.S.S. Rajan, who
Mhm.
was a disciple of Gandhi and Rajagopalachari. So it's a very, he was a doctor as well.
Mhm.
He studied in London. And so the essentially the uh, Rajan's memoir kind of shows the evolution of a public spirited individual who fought for freedom and his commentary on society of that time.
Mhm.
So, against the orthodoxy and, and so on, including religious orthodoxy. So it's a very interesting memoir.
And then the
The
second book.
second is a collection of poems by a poet called Perundevi.
Mhm.
Uh, this was my first collection of poetry in translation, full length, book length collection.
Mhm.
Uh, I've been translating poetry for about 20 years now, but for various anthologies and so on. But this is the first time that a book length work is coming out. So this is Perindevi is a professor of religious studies in a university in a college in upstate New York, Albany,
Mhm.
in fact, and she divides her time between Chennai in India and Albany. Uh, so she's kind of very modern and even I would say even postmodern, and she writes about how technology has changed. Has our most intimate lives are mediated
Mhm.
by technology. So
Mhm.
so she has her own vision of life as it is lived in the 21st century. So that's an
So
interesting collection. So
excellent. So now I have millions of questions for you. So let's go one by one. So
okay,
first, you mentioned earlier that Tamil literature is about maybe 150-year-old or something, right?
yeah.
So in how many phases you will divide the Tamil literature today? In the of 150 years, like initial phase, middle phase today, and what is the difference? Or there is no difference. It's just one simple 150 years, one era. Or you have seen
Uh,
some changes.
no, I do. There are changes, and the most important change is that uh, I would say that participation in the literary tradition has has been sort of increased slowly, uh, but uh, but steadily. By which I mean, as I was saying, that it was only the people who were already literate and exposed to the literary mode of thinking, they were the ones who were to enter the modern literature tradition. And so between 1880 and 1930, a few works were produced, okay,
Mhm.
and a few novels were written, and they were written in a language that was, in India, it also happens that communities have their own language, have
Mhm.
their own dialect, so to speak,
Sure.
and so there was no standardized uh, Tamil.
Mhm.
Okay, so it was kind of partly colloquial, partly formal, that kind of language, and it obviously it wasn't read widely. These
Mhm.
works, and also the literacy rate was quite low at that time, right? In the early decades of the 20th century. So this whole thing of a society learning how to read and write, and then learning how to uh, how to engage with literature and
Mhm.
then learning how to produce it. I mean, that is the
Mhm.
kind of trajectory that I see as different phases of uh, the development of modernist Tamil literature.
So,
Uh,
which year or roughly what decade you think that the modern Tamil literature began?
I think it is the 30s. uh,
In
1930s. Yeah,
1930s.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's when people started writing critically of our society. Literature became a tool for examining, various happenings in society and what is wrong with it. And it's kind of, literature gives you a deeper sense of reality than reality itself. You know,
Sure,
it
sure.
it it kind of a literary narrative uh, kind of helps you find coherence in your own experience in some way.
So also one other aspect, like we were when we were studying literature, we were told that literature is the mirror of society, and in the Tamilian context, you said most of the literature was done by the Brahmins and upper caste. So
Initially, yeah.
how does the Tamilian literature, even modern Tamilian literature, reflect the current society? What is your take on that?
Okay, now what happens is that from then on, from the 70s onwards, with the Little Magazine movement, other people, you know, uh, Dalit communities, the people subalterns, the farming communities, fishermen, uh, the minority communities. There are Muslim settlements in deep south of Tamil Nadu. Uh, they were all writing about their own history and their own evolution and their own lives, and even the Kungunadu, the western Tamil Nadu, the semi-arid in Coimbatore and those areas, typically where Perumal Murugan comes from.
Mm,
So, so essentially, the stories which have never been told in
mm,
print, in written form, began to be told,
mm,
and that I think is the greatest. And they were told with a competence and skill that was no less than the original upper caste pioneers. So
mm.
it was amazing to see that people took to literary forms and narrative prose fiction uh, with a kind of enthusiasm and skill that was unprecedented. I mean, that was
So,
uh,
so now today also, if you look at globally, there's a lot of Tamilians live overseas.
yeah,
They are
right.
value educated, and as you gave the example of the poetry book you were translating from opposite New York. So,
Yeah.
is there any emergence of global Tamilian literature, or who are some of the writers overseas in Tamil? Or
Yes, I mean there are several strands to it. One of them is the Sri
mm,
Lankan Tamils. Uh, because of the civil war and so on, many of them have emigrated to
mm,
Canada and other places, Canada and parts of Europe and all that. And they have kept the Tamil literature alive, their own writing alive through
mm.
magazine, through publishing, and so on. In Canada, they are very, very strong. And that is one part. And they write about their experiences during the war and the trauma of being an immigrant being immigrants without money. Uh,
So, is
and,
there
and
any big difference between Indian Tamil literature and Sri Lankan Tamil literature, or basically the same, talking about with their own experiences?
it's uh, I can only give you a very subjective, impressionistic view,
Sure.
and I would say that I think that the because of the uncertain conditions in which they live, I mean, they are more sensitive and they are more open to influences. Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
are more open-minded, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
because they've had to kind of deal with uncertainty and displacement.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of that. Uh, you know, in a settled society, probably there are vested interests. There are, you know, there's all kind. There are hierarchies and so on. But in Sri
Mm-hmm.
Lankan literature, you don't find that. You don't
Okay.
find. They are more existential, I would say. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Now let's come back to translation literature. And when I went,
Yeah, just one moment.
sure.
I would like to. Sri Lankan strand is one strand of diasporic Tamil diasporic literature. There are also other strands like in Malaysia and Singapore.
Mm,
There have been communities living there, migrant Tamil communities living there for maybe 150 years.
sure.
Burma, Malaysia and Singapore. So they produce uh, literature. I mean, they are very much an integral part of the countries they live in, and
Mm-hmm.
they have their own problems in terms of dealing with the dominant communities there. For instance, Malaysia, the Malaysian Tamils have to live coexist with the Malays, the native Malays, the Bhumiputras, and the Chinese, and therefore there is a kind of political situation that they have to negotiate, and so it reflects in all parts of their lives, including their intimate lives, I guess, and working lives, and they write about that, and it is quite poignant. And similarly in Singapore too.
Mm-hmm.
So there are Tamils in England, for instance, both Sri
Mm-hmm.
Lankan and others, who also write about their lives. So
Right. So, so now let's come back to translation literature. And I
okay.
remember, when I started to learn English in my sixth grade, my grandfather always told me that, translate the sense, not the sentence. And that's all I knew that, how important that is. Now, when a person like you really translating all these classic books and poetry, it is a very serious affair. So when you translate,
Hmm.
how fair and balanced you are in terms of really exactly translating what they are writing, or you are doing some poetic justice, in expressing the sense. So tell us about your philosophy.
Yeah, okay. My philosophy is that anybody who begins to translate, uh, they are kind of they are very taken up with their own style. Okay, there is something that they feel that they have to make the translated text literary or sound literary in their way, because that's the only way they know. But over a period of time, you realize that the texts that you're translating are literary enough already, in the sense
Mm,
that these are excellent writers and they probably know more about writing than you do, than the
mm,
translators do.
mm,
And if you stick to the text as it is written, okay, if you translate the sentences as they are written, you would probably uh, you have more of a chance of replicating the literary qualities of the original text.
mm,
Okay. And what if you sort of embellish, and if you impose your own sensibility on the text, then you fall between the two stools. You know.
mm, mm, mm,
Uh, and what you're translating is not really that text. It is something that that is partly your own fancy, so that
mm, mm,
you learn to avoid that.
mm.
Okay, so if I translate a writer, then I'm translating that person's voice, okay, narrative
Sure.
voice, rather than imposing my this thing. And it is more of a challenge actually to do that.
Mm,
uh, and essentially what it requires you to do is to read the text immersively, identify with its literary qualities, and try to give expression to those qualities in the new language, in English. That is, so you translate from inside the text,
Sure. So now,
and you remove yourself, you remove your own sense of yourself as a writer and all a little,
sure.
yeah, to the side, yeah.
So now, what are some of the like books, as a translator, you will recommend that one should read if you really want to know Tamil literature? And of course, you don't know Tamil, but what will be the English translation? What are a couple of books you will recommend, including your translations?
Okay, now recently, last year in 2025, there was a book, there was a collection published by HarperCollins,
Mm-hmm.
edited by Perumal called Tamil, the best stories of our times.
Mm-hmm.
Tamil, the best stories of our times. And that is something that I would recommend because it 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 presents a collection of stories from different strata of Tamil society
Mm-hmm.
and different locations of the diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
It has Singaporean, Malaysian, Canadian, European Tamil writers. It has stories by them, uh, and uh, and so it what it does is uh, it showcases the various ways in which Tamil society of today is trying to grapple with modernity. They
Mm-hmm.
have their own tradition and they come from somewhere. They come from a specific culture and
Mm-hmm.
they also have to deal with modernity both inside Tamil Nadu and wherever they live. And so that uh, in this dealing with grappling with modernity in the widest sense, it could be in their love lives, it could be in their families, it could be anywhere else. So that is something that this book will be a good introduction to Tamil literature as it exists today.
Sure. And who are some of the modern living Tamil writers, good Tamil writers, you think?
Okay, I think okay, the person that I've translated a lot of, and he's a very eminent writer, but he died in 2017. He's Ashokamitran.
Mm,
So he's a great modernist writer, and he's well worth reading. There is Poomani. Poomani is a subaltern writer. I have
mm,
translated a book called Heat,
mm,
uh, which is uh, which is about a 15-year-old boy uh, murdering a landlord
mm,
as an act of revenge, and he and his father go into the forest and as
mm,
fugitives and they survive. It's a beautiful novel. It's a classic in Tamil called
mm,
Vekkai. So
mm,
in English, it's Heat. It's published by Juggernaut Books.
mm,
It's not been published abroad as yet, but hopefully it will be.
mm,
It's a good book to read. Then I've translated uh, Poonachi, Perumal Murugan's uh, allegory of a goat, a
mm,
female goat, uh, representing modern life as it is. So it is called The Story of a Goat.
mm.
That's been published by Grove Atlantic in New York City. Uh, so that is available in America. The Story of a Goat by Perumal Murugan. There are, what are the other? I mean, I don't want to be recommending my own.
Yeah, no, but this give you some give us some viewers some insights. Now I have a couple of one more question I must bring to you
Hmm.
is let us talk about the gender in Tamil, the in Tamil literature, both in terms of like if you go, what percentage are the male and female writers, generally speaking of
Okay.
quality,
Okay.
and how the female is portrayed today in the Tamilian society through the literature.
Okay. Now, as far as female writers are concerned, of course, I mean, it is unavoidable that any establishment in India is male dominated, right?
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And therefore they do. they do acknowledge, excellence by female writers, but women writers, but they don't necessarily celebrate them. But the thing is that there is enough space for women writers to project themselves, and to have their own audience. So it's not as if they are sidelined or obscured.
Hmm.
And in the pan-Indian sense, there will be a lot of women writers are celebrated. Mahashweta Devi and Krishna Sopti, and many of them. What's her name? The one Pratham Alu, Ashapurna Devi, and so
Hmm.
on. Uh, So there is a tradition, or there is a practice of celebrating our women writers, and some of it also is trickled down to Tamil Nadu. But I think that both in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, women writers are not as celebrated as they ought to be. But that is a different case. But in and then how they are portrayed quite. I think now, particularly in the 21st century, they are portrayed without any inhibition.
Hmm.
Uh, their intimate lives, and the kind of experience they undergo in a patriarchal society, and all that is sort of no holds barred kind of description. Uh,
So my last question to you is, we all hear about Bollywood and also Tollywood has become equally important.
mm,
And the cinema plays such an important role in Tamilian society. So what about the writers of those movies? Is there any linkage there, or they are totally on their own, or
okay.
how do you look at that type of writing, the cinematic writing?
Okay. Now I would like to, as a translator, I would like to go back to the women writers. Uh, I have translated some women writers myself,
Okay.
Salma and Vaasanthi and so on, and they've been well received. Whatever I've translated, both poetry as well as fiction. So I think that. Uh, More women writers, of course, need to be translated, and I hope that they will be, uh, because it's important. Now, as for your question, I think that writers in general find, because in India, making a living by writing is very difficult.
Sure.
It's this thing. So writers are naturally drawn towards the film industry, where there's a big capital investment, and therefore they get compensated better. And it happened even in Hollywood,
Worldwide, yeah,
yeah.
sure, sure, sure.
Faulkner and everybody,
Sure, sure.
Harold Pinter and all that. They all wrote Hollywood films. So similarly, some of the writers uh, are involved in the film industry. Many of them, in
Hmm.
fact,
Hmm.
particularly younger ones,
Hmm.
because it gives them the freedom, it gives them a certain lifestyle which is not 9 to 5, and it brings them into contact with different sections of society. It expands their experience.
Hmm.
There is an attraction.
So if you take Bollywood, for example, so it's
Mm,
mostly, the Hindi-dominated novels, etc., movies that are
yeah.
made there. And then there is a very full-fledged, developed Hindi literary literature where,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's true.
so,
That's true.
and the they call themselves the true literary guys. They don't take
Okay.
Bollywood
Okay.
seriously. So
Okay.
in
Yeah.
that context, how is the distinction in Tamil Nadu?
I think that these two are different things. Like Kamaleshwar, for instance, he wrote film scripts, and
Hmm.
he wrote, his own works, right? Similarly, I think that the people who are screenwriters and who make their money, uh, I mean, what they do in the film industry is quite distinct from what the work they produce as writers.
Either right. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So
Hmm.
obviously the two are not
Similar.
equated in any way, but there's a difference. For instance, there is this person called Vairamuthu who's a lyricist,
Hmm.
and uh, and his major claim to fame is being a film lyricist,
Hmm.
but he has leveraged that to project himself as a great literature too, and he's won the Jnanpith. So that kind of thing is possible, but uh, without sounding purist, uh, because none of these writers they don't look down on film writing or they don't look down on screenwriting, but
Hmm.
they see the distinction between
Yeah, that's
because
what exactly I
film
mean. Yeah.
writing has a lot of constraints, no, because it's a business after all, and
Sure.
you and a lot of money is involved. So
Sure.
you compromise. I mean, you don't compromise, but you mold your creativity accordingly so that the profit making part of it is not uh, relegated. So that's.
Mhm. So now we are coming towards the end, and in 2 minutes, if you can talk about your last word on the translation literature and Tamil literature today, and where it is moving forward in the next 15, 20, 100 years.
I don't know about 100 years, but translated literature is flourishing in Tamil Nadu. A lot of works are getting translated, both older ones and new ones. See, the problem with the growth of translated literature is that it's not there haven't been enough good translators. That's a translation is also a skill that is being developed over generations. The succeeding generations do better. And so now there are a lot of people coming into translation activity than when I started out, for instance. A lot of
Hmm.
young people, and therefore a lot of the number of titles being produced is much more, and the quality is also very good. Some of it of international standard. So I foresee that this will continue to grow, and many more translated Tamil works will be published abroad and reach readers in England and America and so on. So this is something I expect, but it's not going to happen, that smoothly or without a struggle. But
Sure.
but people are making the effort, and it will happen. And Tamil literary tradition will be recognized or acknowledged as second to none. Okay, that is the hope, and I'm sure it'll happen. And as far as Tamil literature is concerned, uh, I think it will continue to grow.
Excellent.
Yeah, continue to
So,
grow, and more people will write. And the thing is that life keeps changing all the time, and the world
and
keeps changing all
especially
the
in
time.
today's technological world, yes,
Yeah,
every
yeah,
day,
yeah, yeah.
every time,
And
yes.
literature is one way of coming to terms with it,
Mm.
to getting a fix on where you are, getting a fix on where the world is, and getting a fix on where you are in the world. So I think that literary narratives are very, very important.
Excellent. So,
And
on that note, thank you so much for your time. I
thank
really
you.
enjoyed.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah,
Yeah, I know. I'm really enjoyed learning so much about you and as well as the Tamil literature.
thank you.
And thank you so much for your time.